My name is Brian Worrell, District 4 City Councilor, and I'm the Chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Ways and Means. Today is April 29, 2024. It is 2:13 p.m. This hearing is being recorded. It is also being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and FiOS Channel 964. The Council's budget review process will encompass a series of public hearings beginning in April and running through June. We strongly encourage residents to take a moment to engage in this process by giving testimony for the record. You can do this in several ways. 1, attend one of our hearings and give public testimony. We will give public testimony at the end of each departmental hearing and also at one hearing dedicated to public testimony on May 28th at 6 p.m. The full hearing schedule is on our website at boston.gov/council-budget. You can give testimony in person, here in the chamber, or virtually via Zoom. For in-person testimony, please come to the chamber and sign up on the sheet near the entrance. It will be taken at the beginning of this hearing following the panelist presentation. Individuals will be called on in the order which they signed up and will have 2 minutes to testify. For virtual testimony, you can sign up using our online form on our Council Budget Review website or by emailing the committee at ccc.wm@boston.gov or by emailing Karishma Chauhan, that is karishma.chouhan@boston.gov. You will receive the Zoom link and your name will be added to the list. When you are called to testify, please state your name and affiliation and/or residence and limit your comments to a few minutes to ensure that all comments and concerns can be heard. The second way to testify is email your written testimony to the committee at ccc.wm@boston.gov. And the third way to testify is to submit a 2-minute video of your testimony through the form on our website. For more information on the City Council budget process and how to testify, please visit the City Council budget website at boston.gov/council-budget. Today's hearing is on dockets number 0822 through 0830 and docket number 0834, Consumer Affairs and Licensing and Tourism, Sports and Entertainment. This hearing will also cover the Tourism City Hall Plaza Revolving Fund. These matters were sponsored by Mayor Michelle Wu and referred to the committee on April 9, 2025. Today, I'm joined by my council colleagues in order of arrival, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Murphy, and Councilor Fitzgerald, and we have a letter of absence from Councilor Durkin. I'll now turn it over to our panelists to introduce themselves and to dive into their presentation. The floor is now yours.
Well, hello again.
Yes.
Great to see all of you. Happy to be back. Shagun Idowu, Chief of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion, and I will invite my colleagues to share their names and titles.
Good afternoon, Councilors. Donald Wright, Deputy Chief, Economic Opportunity and Inclusion.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathleen Joyce. I'm the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Consumer Affairs and Licensing.
Good afternoon, all. John Matthew Borders, the 4th Director of Tourism, Sports, and Entertainment for the City of Boston.
Well, thank you all very much for this opportunity to talk about the work of these two very important and critical departments. First, I'll say, just in advance of next year, Mr. Chair, if you happen to be chair or another colleague, will invite this hearing to take place outside, given that we're talking about tourism and licensing. So, given that it's 70 degrees, I think it would be great to have this conversation outside. So, just putting a plug in
Noted.
Early,
Yes.
On the record. Kicking off, skipping ahead 2 slides, we went through this morning, but as I noted, for the benefit of our constituents who don't always know who goes with what, the Economic Opportunity and Inclusion Cabinet has 4 critical departments. This morning we discussed the work of OEOI, the Office of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion, as well as the Department of Supply Diversity. And for this portion of our budget hearings, we are talking about consumer affairs and tourism, sports, and entertainment. Skipping ahead to EOI Vision, on the next slide, again noting for the benefit of our constituents that back in January 2022, we updated our vision to be one of a resilient, equitable, sustainable, vibrant city that centers people and creates opportunities to build generational wealth. And we are continuing to center our attention and frame all of our policies, programs, and practices using the framework of racial equity, that despite whatever's happening at the national level, we are not changing how we operate here on the local level, and we'll continue to focus on racial equity. And so now we will shift to demographics of the cabinet and of the department. So I will transfer to my colleague, Donald Wright.
Thank you, Chief. The accomplishments we've made this year are done by a great group of public servants who serve our constituency every day. We are proud of the fact that we remain a diverse cabinet with more than half of our staff identifying as persons of color. Next slide, please. And representing a wide variety of language diversity in order to better communicate with our constituents. Next slide, please. In small business, we added a number of AAPI, a member of the AAPI community, to the team, enhancing our ability to engage with those small businesses. We also hired a grants and contracts manager to help process the large volume of grants we have been able to put out onto the streets as a result of the influx of ARPA dollars. Supplier diversity continues to be the most diverse diverse department in our cabinet, as we noted in our preview documents that the department has been without a top leader after the the director departed in FY26. We are happy to share that we extended an offer a few short weeks ago that was accepted, and a new director will begin in June and will help us fill out the rest of the team.
Yeah, and just want to note too, sharing especially for councilors who may not have been able to join this morning, some of the important work for OEOI and DSD, but also want to draw attention to the fact that we continue to fill out the TSE department, making several additions to the team. One who's joining us today, but we continue to maintain our focus on equity across the department, as well as in our consumer affairs and licensing team as well, with a couple of hires that were made, but we'll see, noting that more than half of the department identifying as people of color. Switching to the, just skipping ahead a couple slides, and then when I turn it over to the directors, I wanted to level set when it comes to tourism in particular. And I think I shared this morning when we were talking about just overall, the overall state of the economy for Boston. You know, the recovery from the pandemic was really driven by tourism. When it came to travel through Logan, we saw that bounce back the quickest, not only meeting where we were in 2019, but exceeding travel patterns where we were in 2019, driven by folks who wanted to take part in a lot of the events that we have going on, working with our partners at Meet Boston and the Downtown Business Alliance. And so just want to note that, as well as hotel occupancy that we'll note here, that, we again are continuing to get back to our 2019 levels in terms of heads and beds. So just wanted to point out again that this is a really critical industry to the recovery of the city's economy. However, on the next slide, we'll see that this is what is exactly under threat by what we see happening at the federal level. So the uncertainty that is, that exists as a result of not just tariffs, but also the targeting of specific countries. I mean, early on in the administration, where there was an attack on Canada and Mexico, really hurts Boston's economy, because you'll see on the next slide, a lot of our tourism is actually Canada is a really important partner, not just for trade, not just for cultural exchanges, but for tourism. And you'll note in this particular slide, which was provided by Meet Boston, a precipitous decline in both air and land travel as a result of the president and the administration's actions against Canada. So, with all the positive rebounding that we saw in tourism, it is really taking a hit as a result of what's taking place on the federal level. So it's something that we are monitoring. We're continuing, I mentioned this morning, the work of our global affairs team, and part of that, of the relationships and partnerships we're establishing with cities across the world include a focus on tourism, adding more direct routes to cities across the country and the world, so that we are kind of mitigating the impacts of the instability at the federal level. With that, I will turn to our Director of Tourism, because all the work that they're doing is meant to help not only redress what we see happening at the federal level, but really to ensure that this remains a robust industry here in the city of Boston.
Thank you, Chief. Slide. As we continue to grow the work here in the city of Boston, our department helps to facilitate in some way, shape, or form over 200 events a year, almost all of which are free and open to the public. So as we continue to grow our work and show our impact over the year, we want to continue to extend our visibility in all 23 neighborhoods. So as we continue to grow our team, we're listening to community-led organizations. We're partnering with those on the ground, boots on the ground, people from these respective neighborhoods, and actively working to try to support as best we can. Slide. A number of events that you can see include those of diverse dance parties promoting different types of music. There was Donna Summer Skate Party. I'm not sure if you all have had the privilege of attending, but you should if you have not. We typically have about anywhere between 2,500 and 3,000 people attend that over the course of the evening. We are currently partnering with the Boston Celtics to ensure that folks are able to attend Canal Street pre-playoffs and to try to keep that as safe as possible for those cheering on our local teams. We've highlighted some things like a mixtape that we've done over the past couple years, really trying to promote local artistry. So having a focus on amplifying local voices, understanding that there are some constituents that may not have the financial means to attend a large-scale concert over the summer. So how can we bring those events to them? So we promote local artists who call Boston home while they're here. Obviously, the trolley tour that we do every holiday season, Gospel Fest, which will also be taking place this August, and then in celebration of Open Streets that will also come back this summer. You look at things like the 250th anniversary, the semi-quincentennial, that is taking place right now. We have a myriad of events laid out from both now until next summer. And something to note is that we are one of 2 cities that will host FIFA as well as the tall ships during summer of '26. So as our chief stated, how there will be ramifications due at the federal level to those who are traveling, we are somewhat at an advantage being all the different things that we will continue to host. Slide. Here's a list of some of those annual events that we called out. I don't need to read each one of those by name. You're familiar with them. Slide. And then, again, we shared a little bit about the actual 250th taking place in real time.
If I can just add a little color to this. So thanks to the work of this council in establishing the Commemoration Commission, both our teams in tourism as well as our partnerships team have been in deep engagement with the Commemoration Commission to come up with different events that will mark the 250th anniversary from now up through July of next year. We kicked it off. I hope some of you were able to attend last Friday, where we had a very innovative first event where there was a drone show that could be seen from many parts of the city and that folks loved, but to acknowledge the 250th of Paul Revere's ride. But we welcome any ideas from the council on different events or things that we could do to mark or highlight different parts of the city between now and the end of July related to the 250th.
I just shared a little bit about this slide, but noting again that FIFA World Cup will be here in Boston alongside tall ships.
And one other thing, and then we'll kick off to licensing. We will also look forward to your support, your encouragement, your ideas. The summer of '26 is going to be a very robust, lively, interesting time for the city of Boston, because each of these events alone could stand to bring hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to the city. And so with all 3 converging across the month of July, there are infrastructure investments to be made. There are event ideas to be put together. And we really will value your input on how we make sure that all of that activity does not just center in Back Bay, Seaport, downtown, but that it spreads throughout all of our neighborhoods. So we'll look forward to any thoughts or ideas you have on that. With that, I will kick to our great Director of Consumer Affairs and Licensing.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity today. I'd like to present an overview of our work and share some of our recent accomplishments and highlight the ways that our office both supports Boston residents and our small business community. MoCal plays a critical role in regulating and supporting a wide range of industries and entertainment activities across Boston, including restaurants, bars, hotels, cannabis establishments, and other businesses that contribute significantly to the city's nightlife, vibrancy, and economy. We also serve Boston area consumers by educating them about their rights and mediating complaints to help resolve disputes efficiently and fairly. The next slide. Our department has 5 divisions: the Licensing Board, the Cannabis Board, the Entertainment Division, Consumer Affairs, and Special Events. Next slide. One of the major components of our office is the Licensing Board that regulates licenses across several categories, which I mentioned some of them before, but to go over them one more time, we regulate common victual licenses, alcoholic beverages, in-holder, dormitories and lodging houses, billiards and bowling, and fortune teller licenses. The next slide. This past year, we achieved several major milestones. The mayor worked with the city council, so thank you, and the legislature to secure 225 new liquor licenses. These will be distributed over 3 years. This fiscal year to date, we've processed 730, next slide. One second. This map here, I'm gonna ask you to go back one slide. Yes. We received the 225 new licenses from the state to be distributed over the next 3 years. We have developed a process that makes the distribution fair and balances equity, community needs, and economic growth. As we approved the first round of 37 licenses, we had 58 applications. That application deadline was in December, and our second application deadline is coming up in May 23rd. To date, the second round, we already have 21 applications. And we've also partnered with the Office of Nightlife Economy to distribute more than 30,000 drink covers to licensed premises following continued reports of prioritizing patron safety. And we processed and approved over 420 special one-day alcohol licenses. This map here shows you where the 37 licenses that we approved are located. As you can see, they're sprinkled throughout the city. Importantly, next slide. We invested heavily in community outreach to make sure residents and businesses were informed about the new liquor licenses and the application process. This included webinars, main streets, presentations, multilingual materials, bi-weekly office hours, neighborhood information sessions, and a targeted postcard campaign where we sent information for our office hours to every CV non-alcohol license holder in the city. The next slide. The Cannabis Board. I'd like to highlight the work. This board was established in 2020. It's a 7-member board, and we're tasked with ensuring an equitable siting process for cannabis establishments across Boston. By ordinance, at least 50% of all cannabis establishments must be certified equity applicants. This is a key step toward building an inclusive cannabis community. Next slide. Our entertainment division continues to play a vital role in licensing and regulating entertainment across the city. In fiscal year 25 to date, we have approved 39 non-live entertainment licenses and 15 new live entertainment licenses, including exciting new venues like Danny's Queer Bar, the F1 Arcade, and the Broadway Golf Club. We approved over 1,600 one-time entertainment licenses, a nearly 4% increase compared to the same time last year. We also streamlined the entertainment licensing process, reducing the number of hearings needed for applicants, making it more efficient and business-friendly. The next slide. Consumer Affairs Division. Our Consumer Affairs Division continues to educate and advocate for residents, fighting deceptive business practices and helping residents resolve consumer disputes. We expanded our mediation services to include Everett. Common consumer complaints that we mediate include online retail disputes, car repair and sales issues, phone and cable bill issues, and car rental issues. We received a $94,000 grant from the Attorney General's office for local consumer aid. We recovered $325,000 for Boston residents in 2024. Nearly $2,000 has already been recovered in FY25. After completing 11 community outreach events on topics like fraud prevention and scams. The next slide. Finally, our Special Events Committee, coordinated by MoCal, assists applicants through the outdoor event permitting process. We work closely with city departments like BPD, BFD, EMS, ISD, BTD, Parks, and more. This fiscal year to date, we've processed 730 special event applications, on track to exceed last year's total of 880. Next slide. We've also made several improvements to the process, moving to a new online portal with clear information collection up front, categorizing events into 3 tiers to better match permitting requirements, launching an interactive map to help applicants identify event spaces, and developing seasonal guides in applicant resources to streamline repeat event permitting. Thank you. I just want to say in closing, I'm really proud of the work we've done in MoCal. The licensing board, the cannabis board, and our teams across entertainment, consumer affairs, and special events have accomplished this year. We remain focused on supporting business, empowering consumers, promoting fairness and equity, and helping Boston's economy and communities thrive. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I want to acknowledge that Councilor Coletta Zapata has joined us, and also the Vice Chair of the committee, Councilor Pepin, has joined us. I'll now turn it over to my council colleagues in order of arrival for first rounds of questions, starting with Councilor Flynn. Councilor, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the administration team that is here. I was recently appointed chair of the City Council Committee on Arts, Culture, Entertainment, Tourism, and Special Events, so looking forward to working with you, John, and your team as well. John, I got a call and worked with a constituent during that NBA Fan Fest at City Hall Plaza about a drone incident. Were you familiar with that?
I heard about it, yes.
At least one person from the public was injured. How did that happen?
I was not flying the drone, so I cannot give specifics on how the accident occurred. I can do some research and find out a little bit more information. From my understanding, there were some conditions having to do with the wind, and something was off. But I will find out more information and be able to share back in proper detail.
Yeah,
Okay.
Councilor, I think Public Safety's been looking into that, and we're happy to share whatever report they come back with.
Okay, I want to, I think going forward, I would like to, I'd like to respectfully request that the City of Boston implement a drone policy, especially a drone policy when used in public, at public events and on city property as well. Do you know if we have such a policy?
Not familiar with one, but we're happy to go back and check, and if not, to bring back this idea to the team.
Okay, excellent. Most of my life, I was involved with the Sail Boston when the Navy would come in and participate with some of the international ships. It was always a tremendous event for the city, for New England, really. What can residents look forward to in terms of having the opportunity to visit some of these international ships that do visit? And is there an opportunity for people with disabilities to also enjoy the tours and going down to the waterfront to see some of these ships as well?
Well, I want to say thank you for that question. And, you know, that's actually another meeting that's happening later today, too. So I'll say for the last several months, many departments have been meeting to prepare for the summer of 2026 in general, especially July. But to your specific question, I know that there will be at least 29 ships, or excuse me, 29 ships representing 22 countries.
Mm-hmm.
And so there'll be piers all up and down for folks to view. But to even drill down more, ADA compliance is front and center. That's the number one thing we're focused on, making sure that every single resident, tourist, and other stakeholder have access to view that. But we are thinking about, as I shared in my earlier remarks, about how other parts of the city get to also enjoy that. Because if there's already going to be so many people in the city of Boston for that one event, because other notable figures may be joining us during that time, we want to make sure that if you're in other parts of the neighborhoods, that you also get to kind of view what's going on without having to, navigate through the hustle and bustle.
Excellent. Yeah, that's something that is important. I enjoy visiting these ships with my wife and touring them and going to these receptions. I enjoy talking to the sailors, but so don't a lot of other people that don't have that same opportunity. And in different neighborhoods of Boston, whether it's the South End or Chinatown, Roxbury, Mattapan. I just want to make sure that we're also working to ensure that they also can visit some of those wonderful ships and go to some of those receptions as well.
Well, I'm not sure. I would love to hear about your experience in the previous years when Tall Ships was happening, because I actually would be, based on that suggestion, I'd be interested in kind of exploring what a neighborhood night looks like, where different councilors get to invite constituents. That's actually, we're gonna follow up with Amy right after this and see what's possible there. Thank you, Councilor.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. That's important. I worked with other city officials, city councilors, and mayors on, and with Boston Harbor now and Save the Harbor, Save the Bay, but a lot of my constituents, many from the South End or Chinatown, or public housing developments in South Boston. I guess all of my district councils can say the same thing, but they've really never had an opportunity to visit the waterfront, so we want to continue to work to make sure it's as accessible for everyone. And I think the most important federal legislation, one of the most important federal legislations, is the Americans with Disabilities Act. So,
And Councilor, do you mind? I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't mean to eat into your time, because we're always in conversation with our team. So just to on live answer your question on drones, the special events team will be adding a question as to whether or not folks intend to use drones, so that there's some engagement on that before any event takes place. But we will also follow up on your recommendation on a policy on that.
okay. Yeah, I would, and I know it might be a different team, but I would like to see an established city policy on drones. I just don't like people that are renting city space having the opportunity to use drones, especially if they don't know what they're doing, and then putting other people in harm's way. I can't justify that. Mr. Chair, let me just say, also thank you to Kathleen, to your team at licensing for the professional work they do, whether it was working with me on the parade issues or working with me on some of the challenges we've had at the theater districts with some nightclubs or downtown Boston. But your team has been very professional and very responsive. So I just want to say thank you to you, Kathleen, and to your team as well. Mr. Chair, I have no further comment.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. The chair recognizes Councilor Murphy. Councilor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all for being here. I'll start off with Kathleen. Thank you. I'll echo that, because we did have a few meetings a few months back in preparation for the Evacuation Day Parade, but just overall preparedness going forward after the tragedy in New Orleans, and making sure that all of our departments are working together. But your team was here, and they were very, just brought a lot of good information that helped us move forward to support, because we want the tourism, we need it, right? It's fun, it's what we're known for here in the city, but it's obviously vital to our economy also, so working together has been helpful. I bet Councilor Worrell will be asking about the liquor licenses, seeing as though he was, but I will ask you a question, Kathleen. Knowing that there was, more processing to happen upstairs, was there or is there a need for more capacity in your office or staffing going forward? I mean, maybe always, but knowing that there was an influx in licensing coming forward with these.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And are there ways through the chair that we're going to advocate for that, or if there's any specific things you could speak of now so we're prepared for that, to help advocate for that?
I appreciate that. I've talked about this extensively with the chief as part of our overall budget request, but my department was probably structured back when we had no additional liquor licenses, and we now have 225 additional liquor licenses available, not to mention the processing of everyday transactions for our restaurants, our clubs, our venues, and then the administration's focus on activating our neighborhoods in our downtown area, which requires licensing as far as entertainment, one-day alcohol licenses, the special event process. Our staff is, I would say, at our limit as far as our capacity, but we're doing what we do every day, and we do it as well as we can. I've never seen anything like it. The amount of, and on top of just the additional paperwork and office work, we're focusing really on outreach and meeting our constituents where they're at, whether that's in their neighborhood, over Zoom, people coming into the office. We're having staff that their job was primarily transactional, now taking 2 to 3 hours to sit down with an applicant when they come in and go over an application and trying to explain what something says. So we're doing our work differently because we have to, and it's just not the same anymore. People don't need to hire an attorney to fill out an application. We want them to be able to understand it in their language simply. We want to get the neighborhoods activated. We want these special events everywhere we go throughout the city. So, you know, that's what we do every day on top of these additional annual licenses. So we're working very hard, but go outside every day, we see all the hard work we do. But yes, if you'd like to help advocate for additional funding for MoCal, we would greatly appreciate it.
I am on the record to say yes. Chief, are there plans for the upcoming budget for actual additional staffing in that office?
Well, one thing I will note, and again, we shared this morning as well that, we're pretty comfortable with the budget that has been presented before the council. I think this budget is very responsible and addresses the needs that we've advocated for to the other colleagues in the administration. What I'm grateful to MoCal for is this is not an effort that we just placed on MoCal. So that's why every time when we talk about what we're doing, we do it under the framework of the cabinet versus singular departments. And so other departments have stepped up, like small business and others, to provide additional capacity, knowing that, an influx of 200 plus licenses was going to be a constraint on the existing team. So others have filled in where necessary, and that's allowed MoCal to do even the more one-on-one support that they were already providing. But we will continue to address needs as they arise.
Thank you. Into tourism, similar question. I mean, we've been talking about 2026 for over a decade, and it's almost here. It's exciting. Are we already planning for an expansion, or how do you see overseeing the additional needs that will come up over the next few months into next year?
Great question. We will continue to work cabinet-wide to support the efforts, and wherever support is needed, we will lean on the resources that we currently have to continue to meet those needs.
Well, I again just want to add to that, Councilor Murphy, that this is also why we're seeing it's not just tourism that's doing this. This is why we're having multi-department meetings on this, because it is going to require our operations team, our public safety, et cetera, involved in this.
Okay. Thank you. With workforce development, supply diversity, job training, where do we see over the next few years, like where we're going to target and what types of jobs are we targeting to be prepared for the future?
I think we'd be happy to get a list of different job opportunities that will be made available as a result of the convergence of these events. Of course, I think it's a great question. There are many, many different opportunities, both on the workforce side and on supplier diversity. We have been working with the FIFA, the local FIFA group, to identify what those opportunities are, so we're connecting folks to them.
And one last question, and I believe it's true, but you always, I shouldn't say always, but you often talk about how all of these decisions are, rooted in equity, but also language. If you could just give some specific, examples of how we're ensuring. I know, Kathleen, thank you for bringing that up when people come into the office or call in. It's like making sure that we have language access to help explain, or just cultural, meeting residents where they are. But what specific things are we doing?
I'm trying to understand, you mean on the language diversity piece?
Yeah, yeah, language access for people if they're looking to fill out grants, calling you about small business concerns, anything that comes up.
Absolutely. So this is one reason why we include as well in the presentation the language diversity across the cabinet, because not every department has someone who either writes or speaks a particular language, but because we take this cabinet-wide approach, if someone comes in speaking German, I'm making it up, but like if someone speaks German and they're trying to get information on licensing, but their German speaker is in small business, that person will come provide support. We also make sure that any information that we're putting out publicly is translated so that that's accessible as well.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. The chair recognizes Councilor Fitzgerald. Councilor, you have the floor.
Chair, thank you, everybody, for coming out today. How's everyone doing?
We would prefer the 70 weather, but yeah.
I'm with you. We can talk outside after. Quick question. I'll start with outdoor dining, Executive Director Joyce, but outdoor dining on private properties. Because I feel like some folks have had issues, not when it's on their own land. I feel that the process, there's some in my district in Adams Corner that have tried to do it and said the process is difficult, just as to why it may be difficult and what or could folks be doing wrong in that process if they aren't getting there. Because I assumed.
Yeah, well, a lot of so the outdoor dining manager lives in the small business department. I mean, licensing plays a big role in the outdoor dining conversation, but in terms of the policy and getting folks through the process, that lives in small business. On this particular issue, this has been flagged for us that folks are having difficulty. Part of it is we are engaging inspectional services because that's where it's coming down to, right? That there are requirements that were in place before COVID that were relaxed, to help the industry in the years coming out of COVID. That now that we have kind of come out of it are being re-implemented. So we're in conversation about which of those need to actually be enforced right now versus giving people time to comply in future years. So we will hopefully have a pathway forward very shortly.
Okay, so if I'm understanding it correctly, it's because of COVID relaxing things, but now we're implementing them back again, and that's providing, that is the hurdle that most people say, why can't I do it on my own property? This is now because we're starting to reinforce some of those things.
Exactly.
Enforce them.
Right.
Gotcha. What exactly, for my own education, what are the type of things that are being reinforced? What's an example?
I think so what we can do is kind of send by email the specific permits that are now being required. Some of them are related to health. A lot of them are related to fire, code safety, egress, et cetera, that I've heard pop up in specific instances.
Okay, thank you. Director Board is around tourism. I've been trying to float this idea in District 3, only because it's the most diverse district in the entire city. And it's got a strong, in Adams Corner, you've got the strong Irish population. In Fields Corner already exists, Little Saigon with the Vietnamese population. We have the Polish Triangle, which still has its it's a little bit more integrated now, but it still has its Polish roots there. Yeah. And I think about these locations, and I'm glad that Little Saigon has the official designation, and I'm looking to get one for Adams Village and the Polish Triangle as well. But the idea of sort of like traveling the world in District 3, right, and never having to leave Dorchester and being able to go to Poland, Vietnam, and Ireland, love it, right, all along Dot Ave. But to me, the problem is I see it as a tourism thing, right? Because when you walk down the street in North End, and you walk down Hanover, you're like, we're in Little Italy, right? Period. When you're in Chinatown, you're in Chinatown. But even with the designation at Fields Corner for Little Saigon, you're not exactly like, hey, I'm in the Vietnamese hotspot of the city, right? In Adams Village, you just read the name off the bars and you'd be like, okay, I think we're in Ireland. I'm pretty sure I get this part. But
that's not biased.
Yeah. But, and same for like, DJ's Polish Market and the other things that are, and there's some further development that's happening around the Polish Triangle where I'm trying to say like, hey, stay true to that Polish community and so how can we be better at, even from an aesthetic point of view, like branding these areas so when people come in, if
Absolutely.
they come from Ireland, if they come from Poland, if they come from Vietnam, right? They go, honey, let's go check it out. Let's hop on the red, I looked it up, we hop on the red line, we can go out here, we can check it out. And that becomes to us, like how do you draw people into the local neighborhoods and things like that?
We're right there with you. We're in discussions right now, trying to figure out how best to amplify some of those experiences. I know that there are current discussions around the 250th and how to move people around the city so they can experience different tours. To your point, that same spirit, that same energy exists when we should be trying to push not just visitors, but our local constituents to different parts of the city to take part in small businesses, to take part in those culinary experiences and patronize businesses. So we're in discussions to try to figure out how best to amplify that and what resources look like. We've begun conversations around piloting different programs to elevate just that, that wouldn't solely be neighborhood specific, but would also call out certain experiences, whether it be through art, through culinary, through different experiential evenings out. So those things are in discussion in terms of tourism, and we're seeking the resources, whether it be through partnership or internally, to try to figure out how best to do that. But that's an active conversation that we're having right now.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the infrastructure is there, like you said, the culinary, and a lot of that is sort of already exists.
Yeah.
And it's just if we just marketed it the right way and also had the aesthetic, like I mean, I'm talking hanging whatever from the street lights, you know what I mean, and making it okay. So if you're driving through, you say, okay, I know where I'm at, right? But would love to see that as well. That's all I have for now. I think otherwise, then I can wait for a second round if I'm around. But otherwise, Chair, thank you. I see back the rest of my time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Council Fitzgerald. I think you started a debate on who had the most diverse district.
I will go toe to toe.
I'm from Dorchester too, so I'm pretty
Right.
biased.
Look, and I even got,
Dorchester split, remember that.
Listen,
right. I've got the diverse part.
We are grateful to serve all of Boston. I was going to say.
I want to acknowledge that Council President Louis Jen has joined us, and also we have received a letter of absence from Councilor Santana. The chair recognizes Councilor Coletta Zapata. The floor is now yours.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you all again for your work. I spoke to some of you earlier this morning for Director, Borders, and Chairwoman or Commissioner. Both.
Yes,
Let's
whatever
do
you'd
that.
like, Kathleen.
Thank you for your work, and we've been in constant communication on many different issues, so no deep questions. I want to, again, just appreciate the time that you took recently, last week, to discuss a liquor license issue that we're dealing with in my community, and hopeful that we can come up with some innovative solutions. So just wanted to speak that into the record, and thank you all for taking that time and creating space. I also want to shout out, while my computer loads to show me my questions, I just want to shout out Amy Yandel, who is a Charlestown resident. She's amazing. I was at the 250 celebration, and she was on it. She saw me, she was like, you come with me. And she knows what she's doing. It takes a lot of work to put some of these events together.
Sure does.
And it falls on only a couple of people. And so I just want to shout them out, shout out the staff of the Special Events and Tourism Office. Also Danny Green, who has helped me through some really prickly, thorny things for constituents. So I want to shout out him, as well as Rebecca. I don't have her last name, but just want to shout them out. Travel and tourism. So we got into a conversation with the delivery, third-party delivery drivers, just thinking about and trying to quantify the impact on our streets based on multiple trips that happen. I'm thinking about, in the North End, the fact that because we have some of the best food, I'm not going to say the best food, because I know that that'll start another war, but seeing that we have the best food in the city, we have the Freedom Trail, we have various other historical landmarks, we see 2 million people in the summertime. And that must create wear and tear on our streets, and it does. We have bricks on our sidewalk, the Freedom Trail, trash. There's way more trash. You have the Mike's pastry boxes that are brought everywhere across the city, but they're usually in those trash cans. And there is an impact on city services, which is then impacted or impacts residents' quality of life. And so I'm wondering, and this may not be a question for you, maybe it is for Ashley Groffenberger, but in the event that you do know it, I'm going to ask it. The revenue that we generate from hotel taxes or whatever, the travel tourism industry, does that just go into the general fund? Maybe the chair knows this. Does that go into the general fund and then is just dispersed throughout the operating budget? Or does it get directly designated to neighborhoods that are impacted mostly by the travel and tourism industry? So I'm thinking like the North End, Beacon Hill, Back Bay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for the CFO, but from the many various presentations I've seen her give on the budget, I believe whatever we collect in excise goes to the general fund so that we have the flexibility to, address whatever pops up.
Okay. And I'm asking this because there's really no real conversations, but in the infancy of like the North End, for example, we do not have a robust, there used to be a Chamber of Commerce or anything like that. We've been talking about an improvement district because of the impact of travel and tourism on the North End in particular. There have been outdoor dining fees, which have helped, but now we're not really going to see that anymore. So I was just curious to know if there's any specific expenses that are paid for by revenue by the travel and tourism industry, but it doesn't sound like that's
Well,
the case.
I mean, the specific, it doesn't come to the city. However, there's the Tourism Destination Marketing Fund that was set up by your predecessor and the previous council that goes to Meet Boston that it doesn't go for city services, it goes mostly for events. But I guess what I would say is that if there are specific issues that we're looking to address, I'm sure that there's a conversation we could have with budget and with Superintendent Brohl to, kind of be laser focused on addressing those issues.
Thank you. And the drone show was excellent, by the way, Boston 250. It was amazing. So just kudos to you, shout out to all of you. Who paid for that? Was that the city or was that me, Boston?
I think there was an external entity that, we can get that answer for you, but I believe it was an external entity that wound up covering the cost for that.
Okay, because it was excellent, and I think that we should do it more.
The idea, of course, was birthed with the city, but someone else, I think, paid for it.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it was that Instagrammable moment where people are going to be sharing it and people see it, they want to come to Boston, cool things are happening here. So I thought it was awesome. Anything else with Boston 250 in the next couple of months that you think I need to know? There's a couple of things happening in Charlestown.
Right.
The city's role has been instrumental in setting up and teeing up some of these events. Where is that money coming from? Like, what are we paying for and who is paying for it? Was that money that was set aside already in the budget from last year? I'm sorry, I should know this answer, but I don't, so.
Well, okay, so there's two questions. So in terms of what else is going on with 250, I mean, as you mentioned, Bunker Hill is coming up, so we want to knock that out the park and do that well. I will note another partnership we have with Embrace Boston on their E250 or Everyone 250 campaign. There are weekly or biweekly meetings where tourism is engaged in that. And so, outside of the the 1770s era and marking those key moments, we'll also be marking all the other things that have happened in the last 250 years that are not tied to horses and tri-corner hats. In terms of the money, the administration has been more so focused on helping to raise external dollars to support what's going on, noting that, we wanted to provide a responsible budget and not add a whole bunch more new things to this budget. There are many companies that have expressed interest in supporting different things, and I think as a result of that drone show, see that we are taking this seriously and want to support where they can.
So it's mainly been external partners.
Private sector partners. Meet Boston has some funds as well. I will say that the state has also stepped up to provide support. So in their last, I think it was the Economic Development Bond Bill, there was roughly $40 or $50 million made available for the 250th, and they've already put out several grant rounds that Boston groups have applied for and won. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay. I think I asked a lot of questions earlier. Don't have too many questions for you all now, but just want to show gratitude for your work and thank you for everything you do.
Oh, we appreciate that, Councilor. And we will come back to you on the third-party delivery point that you were bringing up?
So less about the third-party delivery, more so about the pedestrian traffic that comes through. And just generally the impact on our sidewalks, on our streets, and then the delivery of city services, because we have so much more traffic coming through the north end, and it's a quarter of a square mile. So,
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Coletta Zapata. The chair recognizes Council President Louis Jen. Councilor, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our panelists for being here and for your diligence in helping to steer and shepherd our city. It's really appreciated. I have a question for you, Chief Idowu, that may be a mixture of this panel and last panel, but I hope, and I apologize, I was not able to make the prior panel, but it's about a topic that we talk about often, which is Nubian Square, and what we're doing to support driving people to support the businesses that are in Nubian Square, both driving people as in residents of the city and in tourists who have a lot to discover in Nubian Square. There's a lot of work I know happening at the bowling building. We have the Jazz Urbane coming in, which will hopefully help to attract more people. But in terms of supporting more marketing efforts, more attempts to get people to Nubian Square to help some of the flagship businesses that are there. Would love to hear some things that you're doing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question and the opportunity to talk about one of my favorite parts of the city, one of course, of 23 areas of the city.
Yeah, as an at-large counselor, everything's the most favorite, the most diverse, all of it. So.
Well, Nubian is an interesting area because, there's so much that is about to be happening because of all these projects that are taking place simultaneously. And
that there's a lot of people who feel like it's always been about to happen. It's always been about to happen.
However, the I don't know why I'm forgetting the name of this spot now, but down the street across from Nubian, that project is Haley House.
4147 Washington.
Yeah.
That project is about to come online. The BFIT location is almost complete. There's just a lot that is about to come online where we're going to see a lot more activity and foot traffic. And so the ways that we're beginning to prepare for that, you've already mentioned some of the things that we have actual ownership of. So bowling building will be fully activated. But like literally just yesterday, and Donald can attest because he was on the call, we were talking with Black Market about activation of the square, which we are fully committed to helping make happen. Because that's really how we're going to draw people is, yes, it's important to have the restaurants and the other types of businesses, but if there's nothing going on there on a regular basis, it doesn't become a destination that people are thinking about going to. And so I think, continued activation like you see in Rossi Square and other parts of the city are going to be important. So, the support for Main Streets to kind of beef up their, some of the work that they've been doing for regular activity, like the farmers markets and stuff like that will be important. The activation stuff that we're talking about with Chris and Kai Grant for the area, supporting their block party, all those things are going to be important. And then I think finally, that's all the stuff that gives a way to being able to market what's happening on a regular basis, so it becomes annual, so that folks are looking forward to things happening versus it was a one-time affair.
Yeah, and there are other neighborhoods where I think this applies. Coincidentally enough, it won't be coincidental to you, but we hear from businesses in the downtown neighborhood that they struggle when it's not theater season. So it's really important for us to make sure that we are doing a lot more activations downtown. And I want to shout out the Downtown Business Alliance, the Downtown Boston Alliance, and Michael Nichols and the work that he does to really do a lot of activations. Would love to see more of that in downtown Boston, but in Nubian Square. There have been years where I feel like we have been doing a lot of activations in Nubian Square, but years where I feel like in my short time here where we haven't done that as well. So we'd like to see us pick that up. And I want to say thank you to Deputy Director Wright, you and your team, and Demarius, Demarius, and the incredible work. Whenever I have a question to help one of the businesses in the Nubian Square area, y'all are always at the ready, picking up the phone to really help. So, plug that.
Councilor, if I may say, Nubian has been a focus for us for quite some time, as you already know. Last summer, we had a community canvas series where we programmed every weekend in Nubian Square, really just to continue to attempt to drive traffic to the square. I know that that's been a conversation that's gone on for a while. But I will say that this department I feel almost embedded in Nubian Square. We are definitely feeling and understanding the pulse, and that's through a lot of the work in our partnership with Main Streets and also the work that the Small Business Department is doing there as well.
Awesome. And, you know, I mentioned downtown. As an at-large councilor, I care about all of our neighborhoods downtown, Nubian Square, but also want to make sure that I'm always uplifting a neighborhood that I think the businesses and the community need a lot of support, which is also Mattapan and Mattapan Square. And I know that there's energy there, so just wanted to put that out. Director Borders, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I have a question about how we're able to support in these very difficult times, right? When things happening at the federal level, we see a lot of organizations and entities that we care about losing federal funding or at the brink of losing federal funding. The philanthropic world is also changing, and we're not sure how folks are going to respond. So things that are and institutions that are near and dear to my heart, like the Museum of African American History, like Boston While Black, which is it attracts a lot of people from around to come. And also, I forget who was saying this, but about presenting a face of Boston that so many people haven't seen. And that's why it's really important that we continue to increase our support. How is your office thinking about supporting entities like that in these difficult times?
Great question.
And when I talk about Boston While Black, I'm particularly talking about their family reunion on Lawn on D, because I know, just for example, like that's an area where they're facing a lot of challenges given the changing landscapes.
I think you bring up a lot of good points. Our goal is to support every constituent across the city. As we look at those who have been most directly impacted at the federal level, we're having active conversations, both internally and externally, to figure out how we can meet those needs and figure out what support looks like directly from our office and/or external resources. I think the chief alluded to it before. There are opportunities to bring other parties to the table to support different efforts. So a lot of what we're doing is continuing those conversations internally, figuring out what resources we can lend ourselves to, but to also rely on the partnerships of external entities who find a significant value in the work, such as Boston While Black, and to lift that up as we can.
If I can just very, very quickly.
One moment. We just want, when you talk about external entities, like philanthropy, or are there others that I'm not aware of?
Philanthropy is directly tied to it, but I think there are different corporate partners
Okay.
who would find significant value in being able to target said demographics. So there are opportunities there.
And just to add, Councilor, because I completely agree, lots of our nonprofits and our entities that put on really important events that draw people to the city are facing critical gaps now, especially because they're focused on our populations. And so a couple things. One is where we can't fill the gap financially, what we do is provide customized support. And what I mean by that is that we become the internal liaison to help folks navigate the process, where some people are paying thousands, for permits, et cetera, to move through the process. We are undertaking that to help get things from start to finish, kind of removing barriers internally. I think, also we have a regional tourism agency that was set up to provide this type of support that you're talking
Meet Boston.
about. Yes. And, I know that they have stepped up recently to provide additional support to some events that we care about. But, we'll leave it to the council to consider how best to engage to ensure that all the events that you're aware of are getting the support they need.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I did hear my timer go off, but I also heard that I'm the only counselor here at the moment, other than you, Mr. Chair.
You're not the only counselor.
Other than you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Go ahead.
So may I continue to ask a question
yeah, you
or two?
have a question, yeah.
A question or two?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that's good. That's good to hear. I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted, but I think that's and I'd love to think and sit down and have conversations about how we can make sure that that entity, Meet Boston, is really doing the work of filling in the gap, especially given that so much of it's our dollars going to support an entity, and we want to make sure we're doubling down on what we care about and what we say we value as a city, and doing the work of showcasing the real Boston. And if we're showcasing the real Boston, that means organizations that haven't had funding historically, that have been historically excluded, get that funding so that people want to come and they want to see the real Boston. And we have to show them that the real Boston is not just downtown. And I'm a member of the Commemoration Commission, and I think I'm so excited about 250, and I want to make sure that people are getting to our neighborhoods, and I want to make sure that people are having a more diverse view of what Boston is. And that doesn't happen if we're not putting our dollars behind supporting entities that are trying to do that work of changing people see the city. Okay, those were my questions. Sorry. Oh, no, okay. But no, that was not my question. Sorry, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Joyce, I have a question about, thank you for being here. I have a question. I think that it's towards you. Can you tell us what the status of social consumption for cannabis is in the city of Boston? Or has that something that we've thought about? What is the landscape for that?
We're definitely thinking about it. We're waiting to see what happens at the state. They are figuring it out themselves. I know they have a working group and a subcommittee, but we're looking for some more information from them.
Okay.
So we can't move forward until we know what the state's going to do.
And the state bill provided for social consumption, is that accurate or no?
Recently, I know it's coming. It's a question of how they're going to roll it out.
Okay.
And we don't know yet.
Okay. And then my last question is regarding the Consumer Affairs Division. How big of a division is that?
It's 3 people.
Okay. And what are the? I saw that, and I missed that part of the presentation, but I saw that they are working. A lot of the work is done in partnership with the Attorney General's office.
Yes. So we are partially funded by a grant from the Attorney General's office, and we receive our cases from the Attorney General's office. They get assigned to consumer affairs offices throughout the state. So we have all of Boston and now Everett. And we do 2 ways. We're not just responding to complaints, but we're also trying to get out to the neighborhoods and the community and educate people so they won't fall victim to certain scams, to certain issues that we see, and try to walk them through, best practices and stuff like that.
So are they enforcing? Are they like 93A complaints? Do they do those, or is it?
We don't give out legal advice. We
Yeah.
give out advice to a certain point, but then if it got to a 93A complaint, we would probably recommend they get an
Send
attorney.
it back. You would send it back to the Attorney General's office, or?
I believe so. Yep.
Okay. Is there any? And this is the last question, Mr. Chair. Is there any work or opportunities you feel like for the office to grow and do more work in response to needs that you've identified from residents in the city around consumer affairs, whether it be scams?
Every year is different. There's themes that come up depending on what's going on. There was a big thing with the I'm blanking here, the tourism industry with the group, the ships,
Sail Boston.
like when you go on a
Cruise.
Sorry, the word is cruise.
It's okay. It's all right. We all. I was in Hyde Park. I was in Mattapan earlier and said Hyde Park. It's just things happen.
So we have to kind of respond to trends that we see coming our way. We don't necessarily go out and seek out themes for the year, but we're always talking about, credit card fraud, mortgage fraud, or landlord-tenant disputes. So, I'm sorry, so the question was about, are we seeing more opportunities?
Yeah, is there is there a way in which you would like to see the office grow based on sort of what trends you're seeing from complaints you get or things you're hearing from residents?
Yeah, and I think, again, kind of across my office, if we had more time out in the community and we're able to speak to people, meet them where they're at, the education component, I think, always plays a huge role in reducing complaints, reducing claims, reducing issues. So we have recently staffed up. For years we had 2 consumer advocates. Now we have a 3rd, and he speaks several languages, so that's very helpful as well. The office is great. Some of them have been there for over 30 years, so they have the wealth and breadth of knowledge that I think we're very lucky in that way, and we work so closely with the AG's office. And they provide trainings to our advocates so that the messaging across the state is the same, and I think we're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And lastly, I just want to thank all of you and the Chair for all of your work on the liquor licenses and making sure that our restaurants, I get so excited when I hear people, I just put in my application, I'm putting in an application, really exciting stuff happening in our neighborhood. So just wanted to say thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council President Louis Jen. And thank you, Chairman Joyce, for all your work and your entire team. They've been so supportive, so professional. Every time someone calls our office and is looking for assistance, your office is there, Danny's there to help them out in a real way. And it has reduced the barrier that has been there in the past. People thinking that they needed a lawyer in the past, so it also has reduced the cost. So I just want to say thank you for all the work that you and your team and this whole panel has done in supporting new applicants on liquor licenses. I wanted to start off with where Council President Louis Jen left off with the consumer board. Hearing about there might be some federal movement on the federal level, how are we preparing that on the local level if the Consumer Financing Bureau on the federal level is dismantled? How are we preparing for that here in the city?
I think that's a bigger question. I can tell you and reassure you that the funding for our office is completely separate from that.
Separate?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you think we'll see like an increase of complaints if that is dismantled at that level?
So the work we do isn't directly connected to that.
Okay.
So I don't think we would see anything different due to that dismantling.
All right. I guess my next question will be for Mr. Borders, Director Borders, is, attracting events to Boston, as we've seen now, it's like a coordinated effort, and I see that with the 250th, how you guys are working with Everyday Boston, and then coupling that with the historic events. What more is needed, and what is your strategy to attract other events here to the city of Boston? And how can we strengthen your efforts as a city council?
Great question. Are there any events in particular that you're thinking through?
I did file one for the NBA All-Star Game, but even I know there's conversation on having a HBCU football game here, or even the NFL Draft. There was a tech initiative that I believe might bounce around in the southern states a little bit, but just in particular, yeah.
Great question. I think there are two courses of action, some inbound, some outbound. Some would consist of our office working closely with an entity like Meet Boston that would put forth an application, respond to an RFP, something along those lines. But I think it's all on a case-by-case basis. Our office does our best to be proactive in terms of trying to attract large-scale events that would bolster the economy, that would have a positive financial impact, understanding those ramifications, getting tourists here, getting people here. Those resources would not solely be downtown, but they would go also into the neighborhoods. That's what we want. But we would be working closely in partnership with external partners to drive a lot of that. There are certain things we can do from a city level, and then there are certain things that we would look to partners to assist us with, but those are ongoing efforts for all of those that you've listed.
And if I can add to that, Councilor, another focus as well that I know John's been and team have been working towards is homegrown. So as much as we want to attract new events here, we also want to help grow events that are based here as well. Councilor Louis Jean brought up Boston While Blacks Family Reunion, but BAM's Fest, Roots Picnic is great, but how do we grow our events to be the types of events that others want to pull from here to get to their cities? So it's a dual focus of ours.
Absolutely. And I do echo support for homegrown. And I would love to see the city, like, to Councilor Louis Jen's point, trying to get behind some of these homegrown projects, whether it's marketing. I know that we're helping with the permitting, but I think maybe there's like a marketing plan that we can help them with that marketing strategy. But I do agree. Open streets, is there any way, and I love the program, always a great day, but is there any way to quantify how local businesses, like the economic impact for local businesses on that day?
Well, we have started doing that. So the small business team, well, I'll say a couple things on this, and I appreciate your bringing up open streets. Want to note that now our team controls open streets. It was a dual effort. It lived in the streets cabinet, and we provided support. We have Pilar on our team who is the dedicated person for open streets in the TSE department. But now we have it, and as a result of that, we put out a 3-year RFP versus 1 year, which meant that, it's tough to schedule, et cetera. So now we have a firm for 3 years, and we are coming up with a schedule for 3 years, so that we want to try to hit as many neighborhoods as possible, so you'll see some changes this year when we announce. That said, early on, from the first year we started doing open streets, small business was already engaged in this process and had been going out to businesses to try to estimate the impact. And I think in the first year we saw revenue increases, not a ton. But now that this now lives in the EOI cabinet fully, there is a conversation about how we ensure that businesses are seeing directly the impact.
Awesome. And then how are we trying to drive tourism dollars to, let's say, other parts of the city?
Well, so there's two things. One is an idea I have brought up here before that I need your advice and support on, because sometimes folks may not readily agree at the beginning. What I have started shopping around is this idea that we need more lodging opportunities in our neighborhoods. It is very difficult to convince someone who is staying in the Seaport and the convention centers across the street from them that they should get in their vehicle or an Uber or Lyft and travel for 40 minutes to...
When you say lodging, you're saying a hotel?
Well, I don't want to call it a hotel, because then people start thinking there's going to be a Hilton down the street from them, and that's not what I'm trying to say. There are smaller... there are inns, there are, other, types of things that we could be advancing. But we want to support local tourism, and that doesn't just mean you're leaving your hotel in Back Bay or downtown to go to Mattapan or Rossi, but that you're actually staying there. Because right now what's happening is people are either staying in the Seaport downtown in Back Bay, or they're staying in Braintree, Waltham, Woburn, Everett, right? And so those dollars are going out there, and they're still traveling to things that are happening in Boston. So one notion is how we advance that, but that's longer term. What we're doing right now, Meet Boston has been an important partner because they have a bigger budget, and so they have been, with our partnership, advertising all the different neighborhoods in the city, highlighting different restaurants and other businesses that to drive folks toward. We can work with them to get the data that they collect on the impact of their advertising, but folks who are either listed on their website or part of their advertisements have reported that they're seeing increases in foot traffic and revenue.
It's good to hear. No, the Boston Celtics just sold their team. I know there's a conversation about moving the stadium. Has the department been in conversation with the team on possible? You know what? Let me ask it a different way. Has the panel identified any locations for a stadium where it would be a best place for a stadium?
I feel like I'm in a courtroom. Well, let me just say, because I almost did my impression of Ilyana Vincennes, not on my watch are they leaving the city. I will just say, the Celtics are important in several ways. One is just, the spirit that they bring to the city of pride. And there's the economic impact that they have here. I mentioned in our first panel this morning on how we're pedestrianizing Canal Street, and that is bringing lots of revenue to the businesses over there, and then just in general. And so we are going to be working to ensure that if there is a desire to move to a different facility, that we are finding a home here in Boston.
Right. I believe the governor came out and has advocated for the Hines Convention Center. So would love to, kind of make sure that the city's advocating for a spot and to keep our Boston Celtics here.
We are absolutely 100% with you, and we're not going to let them go anywhere.
All right.
Not on our watch.
Right,
Not on watch. All right. Can you explain the increase for film and special events? It's proposed to go up $800,000 or 40% year over year for FY26. I believe this is all nearly in contracted services. Can you just kind of talk to me what that increase is for? Contracted services?
Oh, okay, yes. That's the line item from Open Streets that's coming over to us.
That's Open Streets? Okay, awesome. I don't know if Council President Louis Jen has second round questions. All right, Council President Louis Jen, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Chief Idowu for also mentioning BAMS Fest, because it would be cool to have our BAMS Fest become the Roots Picnic of Boston, or for a Roots Picnic to become the BAMS Fest of Philadelphia.
That part.
That part, right? Okay, thank you. A question I had is about the Office of Nightlife Economy and the work that Corrine Reynolds is doing. Would love just to get an update on the work of that office, how that work has been how that work has been going and what we've been learning.
Well, we can send you a written report, actually, if that, because there's a ton of stuff that she's been doing. What we shared earlier this morning, I mean, there's the long term and the short term. So on the
I'm
short
sorry,
term,
was she here earlier and I missed it? Was she here for the earlier part of?
she was around to,
okay.
to answer anything.
Apologies.
But no, all good. And I actually think a written summary would be helpful here, just in general for the entire council. So I appreciate your asking that question. But in summary, under the short term, I think, as has been noted, there was the work that she did with licensing when it came to the drink spiking, like responding immediately to things like that. And she's just been on call with any issues that are popping up in the nightlife, not just on the business side, but also the worker side. And then for long term, there are efforts she's undertaking to explore things like dry hours. So thinking about because I think Councilor Flynn brought up earlier about folks who get very intoxicated and leaving at 1 or 2 in the morning, and Ubers and Lyfts and safety issues. We're exploring ways of, okay, if a restaurant is open until X time, can they have an additional hour or so where people get to dry out before they leave the space, instead of just leaving drunk, which is where a lot of public safety issues pop up on either side.
So would that be like a 2 to 3 hour?
We're exploring different scenarios. We would welcome, feedback from the council. We're looking at late night food trucks, not just for residents and consumers, but also for nighttime workers who don't really have options outside of either where they work or none at all. I'm thinking mostly about hospitals and things like that. So again, and then transportation. We're having conversations with our streets team, with the MBTA, to talk about what does late night transportation look like in the city. So again, she's a one-woman show, but also not really, because she's working across the entire cabinet and administration, but a lot that she's focused on. But I think the report would be helpful for all of you, because I didn't even capture everything in that summary.
Thank you. I just want to go on record and make sure that I support the work of that office. I think it's incredibly important that we have someone who's focusing on that. As a young law school student in the city where I grew up, I often talk about the fact that me and a lot of my friends were thrown out of Cure nightclub because we were Black. And, thanks to the Attorney General's office, the work of then City Councilor Ayanna Pressley, that really aggressively went after that situation alongside me and my classmates. I also saw among my classmates a desire to not stay in Boston after graduation because of a nightlife that wasn't welcoming and that wasn't inclusive. And so it's one of the reasons why I fought so aggressively when it happened, because I knew the image that we get as a city when things like that happen, and especially people who aren't from here. So I just want to make sure, and I think that there has been incredible progress when we look at just 10 years ago, those same law school students, if they wanted to go somewhere at night, the only place I'd be able to tell them is, one of the only places that's Black owned is Daryl's.
Right.
Yeah. And now we've just grown so much where I now need 2 hands to tell people about Black owned places to support. So just wanted to make sure that we continue to uplift the work of that office. There are also situations where we tried to work with that office on when there were soccer games. I think it was during the World Cup, or yeah, it was a few years ago, where the games start at odd times, but there's a fan base that wants to be able to watch those games out at a bar somewhere. But because of our restrictions, it makes it difficult, even if perhaps, you know, we allow them to open at 5 or 4, whatever time in the morning, but not necessarily serve alcohol. So we were running into some problems. So I don't know if that's anything that someone can speak to about ideas or thoughts of how we get around that for the next time that happens. You know, we are a host next year, and I know that they're exploring different things, but would love to, if they've given this any thought, would love to hear.
Yeah, well, I'll just say nothing concrete to share here today, but I will note that it is part of the conversation because we want the city to be open, you know, for the summer of '26, where, like you said, we're a host for the World Cup games, and we want to be open and available. And certainly, we're going to be one of the cities that has Fan Fest as well. So we want to make sure that folks get to experience it, you know, 24 hours. So.
Okay, thank you, Chief, and just again want to thank Director Corrine Reynolds for the work that she's doing in this space. Thank you, Mr. Chair. No more questions.
Thank you. And definitely shout out to Director Reynolds and all her work. Going back to open streets, have we identified which neighborhoods?
Funny enough, there's a press conference coming up where we will be announcing all of that. However, there is a desire to engage with the council because, like I said, because it's 3 years that we want to announce, we want to make sure we're getting it right with the neighborhoods we're getting to.
All right, and then just going back to the events, I know we've talked about this, Director Borders, in the past. NBA All-Star Game, MLB All-Star Game, any update?
There's still a desire to bring all of those events to the city council.
No update yet, all right.
Active conversation.
Active conversations. The City Hall Plaza Revolving Fund, I know we had some great activation in the past year, including the partnership with the NBA and the NHL. What are we charging per day to use the City Hall Plaza? I'm just looking at what the NBA just signed for their TV deal, $7 billion. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we're getting as much as we can from the NBA and the NHL.
Well, I don't have those rates in front of me. We're happy to send that post-hearing. But I will say that there is a conversation about whether or not we need to revisit it for next year.
Okay, awesome.
And this is a collaboration not just through tourism. This is with the operations team as well as arts and culture.
Awesome. And then my last question is for Commissioner Chairwoman Joyce. Out of the
President.
All of these, all the titles.
Out of the 21 applicants that we've received, are we hitting every neighborhood? Where are those zip codes of those 21 applicants?
I can confidently say we have at least one application in every neighborhood.
Oh, nice. That is awesome. That's awesome. That's good to hear. 'Cause I know last time around, that wasn't the case.
Well, no, I think we still had at least one. The problem was that in neighborhoods like Mattapan, we only had one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so our goal is to, you know, increase the numbers, particularly in the communities that inspired
Right.
the legislation.
All right. That is all of my questions. Looking over at Council President Louis Jen to see if she has anything else. No? All right. And I don't think we have no public testimony. So you guys get out of here before 4 o'clock.
Look at that.
Efficient.
All right. Well, thank you to the panelists. Thank you to Central staff. Thank you to my council colleagues. Dennis playing games. Again, thank you guys for your amazing work. This hearing on Dockets number 0822 through 0830 is adjourned.